And first we have Joonas, who is going to talk about scalable test environments on top of Kubernetes. So go ahead.
Hey, does this work? Can you hear me? Okay. So thank you guys for coming today here. And first of all, I want to thank the foundation for letting me talk here. And secondly, I know that it's been a long day for you guys, so I'll try to keep my blabbing as minimal as possible and focus on the live demo more. So I'm here to talk about dynamic and scalable test environment in Kubernetes, and a little about me. So I've been working at Efficode for over a year now, influencing DevOps as a consultant. Before that, I've been doing some cloud and container stuff. And then I'll tell you a little bit about Efficode if you're not familiar with the company. So we're over 250 professionals in 6 European offices, and we've been growing drastically in the last couple years, and we're still hiring. So if you're interested, then just check our website or come and talk to me or any other Efficodians here today. So now let's get to the point. The technologies that we're going to use today, first is Selenium, which will handle all the dynamic scaling up and down. And of course, short framework with Selenium WebDriver. And that's going to be used for the test cases. And Kubernetes will handle all the resourcing needs and all the cool stuff under the hood. And lastly but not least, Pabot, and that's going to be used for the parallelization of the tests, so we can see the dynamic scaling of the environment. So, few words about Selenium. So it's a open source project started by Zalando, the shoe e-commerce company. And you can think of it as an extension for Selenium Grid. So it will provide things like the dynamic scaling, video recordings, third-party storage for your videos, like an Artifactory or some sorts, and integration with third-party test sites like BrowserStack or Source Labs. And you can run it in Docker or Kubernetes /OpenShift, and it'll work there natively. Well, of course, you need to do some tweaking. And I'll show you a few pictures how it works if you're not familiar with Selenium Grid or anything like that. And these pictures are stolen from Selenium's website, so you can check them out from there. So the way Selenium will work is that a tester / developer will send out their test cases towards this centralized hub, and then it'll pass on the test cases to worker nodes or Docker containers. But in Selenium, it has its own logic, which is called this star proxy. And it'll check that if there aren't any worker nodes available for the test case, it'll start spinning those up and then assign that test case to that. And I'd like to mention now that Selenium only supports Chrome and Firefox. And in this second scenario, if you're really wanting to use these awesome browsers with these awesome OSs, you need to use these third-party sites. And Selenium integrates through the hub to those sites. So you'll just point it out to the hub, like before, and it'll act as a proxy to those, and it'll work. So then I'd like to tell you a few points about why would you use this kind of dynamic scalable environment. And these aren't any particular order, but first thing I think is the test time. So when you're using this kind of scalable environment, you can dramatically decrease your test times because you can scale like in the resource pool limits. So if you compare it to like a traditional Selenium Grid, where you have a fixed amount of worker nodes, it just doesn't scale that well. Of course, you can go around with that, but I'm going to show you how Selenium will work better on that. In my opinion, like unified place to do tests. So if you have an organization with multiple teams, with a lot of testers/developers, it doesn't make sense to have multiple test environments to maintain those multiple test environments. It makes sense to take that workload away from the developers and testers and just say them, hey, you can do your web browser test here in this one place. And that's cool, in my opinion. And of course, that's, okay, well, let's skip that now. Okay. Point number 3, no waste of resources/money. So that's quite evident. So you only are paying/consuming the resources that you're using. So if you're scalable in 2 different ways, or in 2 different directions, you don't waste or consume the or pay. Yeah, sorry for that. So you don't consume or pay for the resources. You don't have any Selenium Grid worker nodes available, and you don't need to pay for those. So it's just scales and you pay what you use. And number 4, no hassle of Selenium Grid. So in my experience, Selenium Grid is a pain in the to upkeep. So there's always some kind of problems. Worker node gets stuck and you don't know about it, and then the testers or developers are coming at you and yelling. And you have to kick those and all that. So in this kind of dynamic thinking, dynamic environment thinking, you kind of treat those worker nodes as like animals. If you don't need them, you kill them. Or well, not okay. That's maybe that works with better like cattle, like. But when they're end of life, you just get rid of them and get a new one. So okay, now it's time for the live demo. I hope I'll survive this. And I will show you how the Selenium works. Up in you'll see the dynamic scaling. You'll see the VNC connections and the videos and logs and all that kind of cool stuff. So first, I want to show you, if you're not familiar with Selenium Grid. So also this Selenium has this console where you can see all the worker nodes. As you can see, I don't have any, so I'm doing this really conservative way. And what Selenium brings is this live preview, and that'll show you the live VNC connections to the Docker containers, so you can actually see what your tests are doing live. And they've done this Selenium dashboard where it stores all the videos and the log files. And you can check them up later on. And then, so I have made few test cases. Can you see it? Yeah. So forgive me if I've made some mistakes in this, or some bad manners on these test cases. So I know, okay, it's cutting a little bit from the left, but the only thing that the developer or tester needs to change is put this remote URL, and that's pointing to the grid's hub, so the centralized place. And that's the only thing that they need to change, which is also cool if you're wanting to pitch this to the developers or testers. They don't want to go through the hassle of learning something new, and that's the beauty of it, that they don't have to. They just can add this and be done with it. So then I'll show you the test case. So this is a dummy test case that I made for this. So it'll go to Google, search for Robocon, then if it search it, it'll go to that site, go to the Programs tab, and locates the best talk. And let's see if it finds it. And now, when I spin this test up, you will see that now it shows that there's one request waiting for slot to be free. And now the grids or the proxy logic in Selenium starts to kick in, and it starts to spin up a container for it. And now you can see it's spun up. And as it's grayed out, you will see that it's in action. And we can see from the live preview that it's doing it. And you can have an interactive mode or read-only mode. And in interactive mode, you can kind of fail if you want this test. You can go and click something, and it doesn't like it. So it'll go through the test. I made it a little bit slow, so it's easier to check. And hey, it found it. Great. So now it says test complete. And it'll start shutting that pod down because it's not needed anymore. And in a second, if I don't get demo affected, yes. So it'll show the video and log files here. And you can check, you can download, you can see the logs, you can see the Selenium logs, you can see the actual browser logs. And if you're one of these guys that don't like these video things, you can put in the desired capabilities and run it as headless as well. So it'll work. Okay, so now if you want to ramp up a little bit things, we can say to Pabod that, okay, let's do this. I want to run all my test cases here in parallel. I hope I have enough money in my Google account. So, yeah. So now it starts 10 in parallel. And we can see that now it says that 10 requests waiting for slot to be free. So it'll work as before with the one pod. And it'll take a minute to get those pods running. Yes. So here you can see they are starting to come live. And you can check all these VNC connections, wherever you like. And there is a way for if there's multiple teams that you can kind of go around with this so they don't get mixed up. You can name your builds, or your test cases, and then you can filter them here. So you don't get like 200 live events there. So yeah. And then you should start seeing some videos when they're starting to close. And now you can see that there's, okay, well, there's still 10. But it's starting to slowly getting that pod count down. Like now there's 9. And you will start seeing those videos here. I was lazy and I copied them, so they have the same content. All right. I'm a little bit ahead of the schedule, but that's okay. So for a little bit about these performance numbers, and I'd like you guys to take these with a grain of salt. It all depends how you run your tests, how much you can parallelize those tests, and how you're utilizing the parallelization and all that, and how much money you're willing to spend. So in my small test, I had this basic Selenium Grid with 3 VMs. 1 was acting hub, 2 was active nodes, and I ran 20 test cases similar to this with 10 parallelization. It took 10 minutes, 52 seconds for it to pass. And with Selenium, it took 4 minutes and 12 seconds with 0 active nodes. So it scaled up to the 10 and kept up doing that, and that's it. And I'd like to know that the difference would be a lot larger if it wouldn't be that the X window in containers is quite bad. So it takes a lot of time to render pages there, which compared to the VMs that have better graphic drivers and all that, it can render it better. So yeah, and Selenium is not the only technology that does this. There's like, if you don't like these bulky, heavy Java containers, you can use technology like Selenoid, which is written in Go, and it does almost the same things as Selenium does. Yeah, okay. I'd like to thank you guys. Hope you find it useful.
Thank you, Joonas. Questions from the audience? Well, hands up already.
Again, range extension, somewhere in between.
Okay, so great presentation. My question is, how do you tie this into Kubernetes? Because I've been playing around with Selenium before, and as I understand it, Selenium is dependent on running Docker in Docker, meaning that it has to spin up the containers with browsers, and it can only do that on the same machine that it's running on. I'm not sure if you could actually start the browser containers on different machines than the one that the Selenium hub is running on.
Yeah, so that's, if I understood correctly. So that's what it does. So you'll start a new container for every this kind of worker that has the capability of running a Firefox and Chrome browser.
Right, but how does the Selenium Hub connect through Kubernetes instead of through Docker?
Instead of Docker. So Kubernetes is in kind of orchestration here. So there's written code in Selenium that knows if it's running in Kubernetes or in Docker. So it'll know that which system to use.
Hi.
Hey.
Have you applied this to some sort of a performance testing? So is it possible to launch like hundreds of those Selenium machines?
Yeah, so in my previous client, I've actually made this, and I think we peaked like 160 to 100 test cases in a day. So, and it was it like maximum of 30 or 40 pods running. And that's how far I've seen it go. Okay.
Okay, hello. I would like to know the difference between if you are running Selenium is organizing those Selenium Hub plus Firefox or Chrome nodes. What is the difference if you're running them in Docker, running up one hub and, for example, 10 browser nodes? And with this debug, there is this kind of debug containers when you can get this VNC connection into it. What is the biggest difference of this Selenium? What is the advantage of it comparing to this solution? Do you have idea?
You mean like comparing it to basic Selenium Grid?
Yes, basic Selenium and yes.
Docker Selenium.
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, well, the main advantage is the dynamic scaling and how it goes. Like in Docker Selenium, you need to use some sort of like Kubernetes CPU auto-scaling, and that's slower than doing it like from the hub level. So it'll see that it has requests coming in, and it'll start scaling it up or down if there's no.
Okay.
Hello. It is Selenium that is directly talking to Kubernetes and scaling up directly the containers, or there is something else in the middle to do?
Yes. So the Selenium Hub is directly it's assigned a service account for Kubernetes, which will have the rights to spin up pods.
Okay, so it do. And the demo you shown, it was with headless.
No, that wasn't headless, but
Okay.
you can run it as headless. You just need to put those desired capabilities and those Chrome launch options. You can.
Hello. So when the Selenium is recording those videos, can you somehow connect them to specific test cases so that you can copy the videos to the output directory of the robot framework?
Yes. So you can set in the desired capabilities, you can set like a name and a build. So that way you can kind of know, for example, which team is doing that test, and what branch of the team is doing that, and it'll go to a different folder and all that, and
Okay.
it'll show in the.
Thanks.
But
Okay.
regarding the videos, it's one video for a complete test run. It's not 10 videos if there are 10 test cases in this run, right?
Yeah, I believe it's currently so that if you close the browser, it'll stop the video. All right.
Okay, big thanks, Joonas.
Thank you.